Hello again. You've heard about the physical risks, the direct effects of climate change on your business. Now we'll talk about how the transition to a low-carbon economy can affect you. First, there are risks, obviously. There are the transition risks, but if we look closely, we will see that there are also opportunities. Now, to understand the challenges posed by the low-carbon transition, we're going to use a diagram developed by the TCFD, the Climate Task Force we mentioned earlier. And, da-da-da, my little cars. It's a metaphor, you know. I'm not promoting carbon-based transportation in a video on low-carbon transition. The TCFD presents several categories of risks and opportunities that you can see on this diagram, and that also serve as a basis for future reporting obligations in Europe. Okay, let's see some of them together. Right, first, there are legal and regulatory risks. In addition to the new reporting obligations, there are sometimes drastic rules, capable of shaking up entire sectors. For example, in 2022, the European Union decided to ban the sale of new combustion engine cars as early as 2035. So, the manufacturers will have to adapt, otherwise they will be, out of the race. Another example is the risk of climate change-related lawsuits. We're talking about climate litigation. Now, there are more and more cases. Look, less than 5 in the 1990s, 133 in the 2000s, 271 in the 2020s. The trend is very clear. Another risk is reputational risk. Here, 2 pitfalls must be avoided. Do not put yourself offside through lack of commitment, and don't fall into greenwashing. On our way, we may also encounter market risks related to the transition. A telling word, flig scam. Now, this is not a piece of IKEA furniture. No, in Swedish, flig scam means flight shame. That feeling of guilt you get when you fly. Well, for airlines, it is synonymous with existential risk. In order to meet this challenge, they must demonstrate a serious commitment to the environment. The Dutch company KLM even advises on its website alternatives such as trains or video meetings. What we are seeing here is a fundamental change in consumer behavior that creates structural risks for some stakeholders. But facing up to these market risks, there are also opportunities. And even more so, as new markets will also bring new products and services. Demand will be redirected towards certain sectors, more adapted to the new modes of consumption. Markets will emerge around products and services essential to a low-carbon world. For your company to be able to take advantage of these opportunities, the risk manager must be vigilant. Another risk, technological risk. Now, just like in poker, the higher the bet, the higher the potential losses. Now, some companies are investing heavily. For example, in hydrogen aircraft, low carbon cement, and CO2 capture. However, the success of these technologies depends on parameters that cannot be entirely controlled. 1, the technology will have to become mature. 2, in the time frame allowed by our climate objectives. And 3, at a reasonable cost. On the other hand, if these technologies are successful, the companies that bet on them will be winners in the economy of tomorrow. They will then have turned the risk into an opportunity. Finally, The last risk that we will see together is the risks related to resources and energy. There are obvious risks, like the cost of fossil fuels, which will increase as they become scarcer. And then there are still underestimated risks. For example, the low carbon transition will be very metal intensive. For example, 20 kilograms of copper are needed to produce an internal combustion vehicle, but the figure rises to 80 kilograms for an electric vehicle. However, studies show that copper, but also cobalt, could be under great pressure by 2050 for geological and geopolitical reasons. So, careful with metals. That said, there may also be opportunities to be seized in the area of energy and resources. First of all, obviously in terms of business models. Now, if you are an energy or metal producer, but not only. The TCFD also points to all the savings that you could have. Now, whether it is thanks to renewable energies or through more efficient consumption of raw materials and energy. And that's it. We're done with the risks and opportunities of the low carbon transition. Now, in the next video, we'll explain how to anticipate this by using a tool that you know well, risk mapping.